So super excited for you guys to hear today's episode with my buddy Charles Byrd. And Charles is an absolute master and genius at list building through JVs or joint ventures. And we talk about this. We've done some joint ventures before, and he really knows how to organically build your email list, which is the most valuable tool we have. We don't own our social media followers. The only thing that we do own is our emails. And Charles is going to go into exactly how to do that, but also how to do it through joint ventures. And for those that also don't know, my book is still out and it's doing phenomenally well. The marketing workbook for LinkedIn, all you have to do is head over to Amazon. It's available on Kindle and paperback, and would appreciate all the support. So guys, enjoy this amazing interview with Charles Byrd. I know you guys are going to love it. Welcome to the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Scott Aaron, and each and every week, I'm going to come to you with short, simple, and powerful tactics of how you can grow your network marketing business, brand, bank account, and impact on those around you. And just remember, network marketing is not easy, but it can be made easy with simple steps to create the success that you truly deserve. So Charles, welcome to today's episode, and just super excited to have you here. For a ton of reasons, and two specific reasons. Number one, you are considered the joint venture expert, and I really follow the principles of the science of getting rich, which is living in a world of collaboration and creation, which is something that you do. And also, you are considered the human lead magnet, and people call me the human connection expert. So I really feel that we have a lot of symbiotic commonalities and similarities, and really just want to hear about everything that you're doing and talking about joint ventures. And there's a lot of people on here that don't know about JV programs, and I want to discuss that. But before we get into that, there are a lot of people listening that may not be familiar with you and your work and what you do. So if you could just tell the audience a little bit about you, but more importantly, the one thing that I love guests to do is to talk about that moment where your entrepreneurial spark was lit and how it's never been put out.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here. So I started out in the Silicon Valley. Really started out before that, believe it or not. I got a business degree, and the kind of overall arching thought process then was you go to school, you get a job. So that's what I did. Of course, we studied entrepreneurship in school, but it never seemed like something anyone actually did. You go to school, you get a job. So did that, worked for a big software company, started on a help desk, and then started doing project and program management, and eventually founded my own department, the social media and collaboration department. And so I was running projects with budgets exceeding $5 million, and I was a director choosing the technology that would roll out to a 6,000 person enterprise. And I had some ambitions of becoming an entrepreneur, and I dabbled with it and talked with friends about it, and even attempted to get a few things spun up, but it was very difficult while working full time to do that. And I had pioneered the work from home program for that company, and eventually new management came in and said, we'll need everyone in the office every day of the week, which for me, that meant an hour and 20-minute commute each way. So I opted for door number 2, which was a fat severance package. And then I needed to figure out what was next. And I had some friends that had started businesses with physical products, and they'd really started to get traction by the time they were buying their third building in San Francisco. I was like, wait a minute. I didn't realize my peer group could do this. Like, that was the first time it dawned on me, wait, we can do this? I've read a lot of books about this stuff. And So I was having a chat with those friends, and they recommended, instead of physical products, that I focus on digital products. And it was like one of those cartoon light bulb moments where I was like, the light bulb went off over my head. I'm like, I already know how to produce videos. I've already been training 6,000 enterprise employees. All I need to learn is the marketing. And there was a specific line in the sand where, instead of talking about becoming an entrepreneur, I committed to becoming an entrepreneur. And I actually had this piece of wood made that says, I can, I will, end of story. Meaning, I don't care what anyone says, I'm going to figure this out. And I don't care what resources I need to go through, I'm going to figure this out. And so I started studying online marketing and going to different events. And I figured out very quickly, I'd already kind of mapped out what I wanted my first product to be at the time. It was a productivity product teaching entrepreneurs and professionals how to apply Evernote to their businesses and their lives. And I figured out early on, I didn't particularly have an audience to launch anything to, and figured out people with podcasts, with blogs, with big email lists, connecting with them and building relationships would by far be my fastest way to grow my business. And I'm very glad that I figured that out early. It was still a deep learning process to figure out how to connect with influencers and people that already had my ideal audience. And I learned how to do that online and at events, and eventually took my IT and systems background and created the most integrated workflow for connecting, for tracking all the details, and following up to create joint venture partnerships.
So let's talk about JV partnerships, because a lot of people have heard of them, but they're not familiar with the inner workings of the structure of them, but more importantly, how profitable that kind of collaboration could be. So talk about your first JV experience and how that worked for you, and how you realized, I'm like, you know what, this is a door of opportunity that I'm glad I'm opening, and I'm going to step through, and I'm going to see what I can squeeze out of this.
Yeah. So initially, I'd been studying great things like Jeff Walker's launch program, PLF, product launch formula. And so I was excited about all of that, and on board with the concepts. But again, I didn't have an audience. So I started with kind of one-off webinars. So there's all kinds of ways to create joint venture collaborations. Typically, in internet marketing, a common model is for a joint venture webinar. And I'll give you a great example. And I'll talk about my first JV, but just as an example, someone like Brian Tracy has developed a deep audience in business, sales, productivity, and my products fit that audience perfectly. So in the context of a joint venture promotion, um, Brian will mail his audience, inviting them to a training that I put on. It's a high value, free training. And at the end, we offer a deeper dive course, and the revenue that comes in from that promotion is shared between the parties. So again, there can be many configurations of joint ventures, but that's a very common one that's easy to set up. So my first joint venture was with a gentleman in Australia, and he had a list of, I think, 3,000 people, which back then to me sounded like a lot. And he, I told him what I had going on, and he wanted me to share that with his folks. And we did a webinar, and it was my first one, and closed 17% of the people on that call, and was able to help them get a lot more efficient and effective. And it also kind of guided me through the flow of a joint venture. If you're new to them, there's a very specific way to go about putting them together. And it was a learning curve for me. Like when I got that booked, he was like, okay, do you have some emails that I could send to promote this? I'm like, Well, let me write those up for you. So I was creating all these assets in real time, and that really was a springboard for, again, at this point, I book 2 to 6 joint ventures per week, and everything is systematized. So it another example that was kind of that magic moment of selling things online effectively. I did an interview with another partner on a 20-minute show that at the end offered my program, and it was pre-recorded. So I was in Santa Cruz with my wife on a little getaway, and we sat down at this restaurant with the pier and the water right there, and we ordered some drinks. And right then my phone pinged with a PayPal sale. Ding. I'm like, oh, someone just bought our round of drinks. And then we went to order appetizers, and bing, bing, like a couple more sales start popping. I'm like, someone just bought our appetizers, because my program was selling. And by the end of the dinner, it brought in several $1,000s, and the whole trip was beyond paid for just from uh, that promo. And it ended up making quite a bit of money. And it was the most exciting feeling to be at the beach, enjoying, family time while money is coming in. And it really kind of helped double down on that commitment to build this out as a complete business model.
I think those kind of aha moments are the ones, obviously, um, you'll never forget. But it's also one of those clues that what I'm doing is working and I need to do more of this. So obviously you're deeply embedded in the entrepreneurial world. You work with a lot of entrepreneurs and they have many, many different backgrounds. Is there a common theme or trend that you're seeing that a lot of entrepreneurs are struggling with now? And if you could put your thumb on something, of whatever that is, what do you feel entrepreneurs can do now, especially in the ever changing, oversaturated digital world that we live in? What are some things, or what is something that people can truly do now to make themselves stand apart from everybody else?
Oh, there's one very simple thing to always stand out, and that is to follow up. Most people do not follow up, and you will stand out instantaneously by being the person who does. And to follow up systematically, you need systems to support that. And so I'll just give an example from last year. I went on the marketers cruise with around 450 marketers and had dinner next to this couple on the cruise. And after the cruise, I followed up and had a chat with them. And the gentleman was like, out of 450 people on that boat, only 2 people followed up with me, and you're one of them. And so you can always stand out by following through on what you say. Now, to be able to follow through with what you say, you need systems you trust to capture that information in real time, and then to have that pop up when it's relevant to deliver on whatever it is you mentioned. Perhaps that could be as simple as an introduction, or emailing a website, or anything like that. So you can stand out immediately by following up. You can also stand out by, when you're interacting with people, you're doing it through the lens of truly trying to help them get to whatever goals they have. So it starts by listening, by asking, like, what do you have going on this year that has you excited? What do you have coming up that you're aspiring to? And by listening to that and understanding their skill sets and who their ideal audience is, you can start connecting the dots for people and simplifying their path to get to their goal. And when you approach conversations like that, and interactions like that, you start creating a lot of value for the people around you, and they notice, and they can't help themselves but to provide that value back.
So, providing value and always giving, because those that give the most are the ones that get the most back. And I'm just a big believer in that. And obviously, 2020 has been a very interesting year for people already, and it's going to continue to be that way. And it's one of those things where we can decide to go down this same path and continue to hammer away, or start carving our own path. And I love what you said, the fact that the follow-up is the most important thing, and the fortune's in the follow-up. And people don't understand that. And there are some people that say it's not true, don't follow up with people. But sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 touches to finally crack the shell of that potential client. And I do this all the time. Every couple months, I will go back through conversations that I've had with prospective clients, and I'll just send them a nice message. Hey, hope this is finding you well. Any more questions about what we spoke about a few weeks back? And just reaching out and touching, letting them know that I'm there, because timing is everything. And I can't tell you how many people I've reached back out to that way, and where they said, oh my God, I was just thinking about you the other day. Yes, like, let's hop on another call. Let's talk about how we can move forward. And no one ever really says no to you. It's most often not yet, or not right now. Timing is of the essence. And and you hear different things that the only time we have is now, and there's no better time than now, which I completely get. But sometimes you have to also create that time. You have to create that now for yourself. So what is something that has helped Charles specifically in the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, with all the changes to social media and all the amazing resources that are out there, the consumption of how many things that we can actually learn are endless. But specifically for you, what are some things that have helped you kind of pivot and transition into the direction that you're going in with your business and your brand?
So for one, there's something I kind of paid attention to, and that is you want to have a foundational strategy. So for some people, that could be content marketing. For other people, it could be Facebook ads. For me, it's certainly been joint ventures. And so getting a system to what you're doing so you can duplicate the results over and over and over. And it ends up being rather cookie cutter in just systematically always getting results with what you're doing. So number one would be kind of exploring what's available, seeing what's the best fit for the way you work and think, and the best way to interact with your market or ideal audience, and then get damn good at that. Get exceedingly good at that, because once you have that foundation built, which again, for me, it's certainly joint ventures, then you can start building on that. You can start adding in other things. Like, again, my original product was a productivity course, but people started pinging me left and right through messenger, text, emails, to explain how I book 2 to 6 joint venture promotions per week. In fact, my first live event, I had no intention of teaching that or putting it on. It was just listening to what people actually wanted, and that helps grow from there. Like, you build this foundation, then you can start building on it, meaning adding live events, adding a podcast, growing your YouTube channel, whatever it is. Pick a foundation, and then you can kind of elaborate and build things out from there.
And I think I was talking about this with my wife the other day, and we always come back to this, that one of the most, I think, undervalued and underestimated things about being an entrepreneur and being someone of impact, that is never going to go out of style. It's always going to be there no matter what happens to social media, and that's your email list. And people don't understand the value of that email list, and how important it is to grow that email list, because that's where your raving fans are. That's where the know, like, and trust factor is being built with your current and potential clientele. So And there's a stigma about email lists, like, oh, no one opens emails anymore. You don't send too many emails. So talk about that, because you mentioned it very early on that, that the first JV program that you did was with that gentleman in Australia, and he had a list of 3,000 people in it, and it still brought in a ton of income. So talk about the benefit, twofold. Number one, growing your own email list, and a simple tip to do that. But also, if you are going to get into this JV world, how to connect with those people, and what is a good collaborative effort wise, what's a good email list base to go off of if you have limitations and you're going to do a JV program with someone? What's the base level minimum amount of emails that someone should have to make it worth it for both of the individuals?
Okay, so part one of that question is, what are some great ways to build an email list? Joint ventures are unequivocally one of the best ways to grow an email list. So I'll give you an example. Last week I did a webinar that had it was 789 opt-ins. 2 weeks before that, I did 2 back-to-back webinars that added 4,000 people to my list in 4 days. Those are free leads that are targeted to my ideal audience, because I built relationships with partners who have my ideal audience. So when you want to talk about email list building, and to explain how that actually works, because if you're newer to the topic, it may not exactly make sense. So let's use the Brian Tracy example again, he's promoted me 5 times. So he emails his vast list, which is very large. And it doesn't matter how big. I mean, I'm using him as an example. It could be anyone. It could be the person with the 3,000 person list. They're mailing their whole audience and inviting them in this context of a webinar promotion. Whoever opts in to that training is now on your email list. So it's not like they're handing you a whole list of names. They're mailing their own audience, inviting them to your training or content. And as they opt in, they get added to your list. So when I say I added 4,000 people to my list in 4 days, that means like probably 50, 60,000 people were mailed. Whoever opened those emails, whoever clicked, whoever opted in, those folks get added to my list. So the next part of that question was related to, how do you connect with the partner, and then what size email list makes it worth it to do a joint venture. And by the way, for those of you who don't have lists, there's something I call the reciprocation trap. It's where you think you can't even have a joint venture conversation because you don't have a large email list. And the fact is, that's a story in your own head. It's not actually true. Because there's hundreds of ways to provide people value outside of doing a direct email swap promotion, which I'm not even particularly a fan of. Most partners who promote me never even ask me to promote them. Of course, many do, but in that scenario, if you were to do a cross promotion, it needs to be in very deep alignment, going both ways. And sometimes maybe your product's perfect for my audience and mine's not great for yours because it's not relevant for your audience. So to connect with partners, you can do that online. You can do it in person. Some simple examples I recommend to do so. One would be, figure out what Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups your ideal partners are hanging out in. They can frequently be following some major leader in the space. They could be related to a tool that a lot of people use in that space. And that's where you can kind of see who the movers and shakers are, who are sharing things that are high value. It's clear they're getting a lot of traction. It's clear they're great at what they do. You can start liking their posts and commenting back and creating interaction in threads, and also pinging them in Messenger and saying, hey, you up for jumping on a virtual coffee chat? Try to do that a couple times a day. I did that for quite a while, and I've built amazing relationships with people around the globe, some of which I've never even met in person, and we talk every few weeks. So another way where when I was newer to the space, was thinking, how do you connect with people they feel way above your weight class, as it were, um, bigger influencers? And an easy way to do it is by having something like a podcast or some type of show where you're inviting them on to feature them and how they serve the world. Um, it's of all the people I ever asked on my show, including people like David Allen and all kinds of other industry heavyweights, no one turned me down, and only like 3 out of 70 interviews even asked when it would air and who it was going out to, because those of us who do a lot of interviews, we're doing them all the time. It's like second nature. I think this is my fifth interview in 4 days. So point being, it's not out of the ordinary to be invited to be on a show. That way you're able to connect with them, build rapport. And after the interview, you'd set this up beforehand. You say, after the interview, you mind if we chat for 5 or 10 minutes to, just explore ways we can support each other. It's key language, explore ways we can support each other. You didn't say, let's cross promote each other. You said, let's explore ways to support each other, because that could be an intro for them, a referral. Maybe you land them as a client. Maybe whatever they offer, you need. Like, it's an opportunity to literally explore ways to help each other. So in summary, the value certainly is in the list. One of the fastest ways to ever grow it is with joint ventures. I've generated over 60,000 leads for free just through joint ventures, and connecting with JV partners. You can do that online, you can do it in person, and then you can create a lot of value by building these relationships one at a time, always listening, always providing value up front.
It's really interesting because we're so in alignment with so many things that we're both doing. And one of the key things that I teach on LinkedIn is when you do message someone, you ask that individual, I would love to connect to see how we can both support each other here on the platform. And that's the thing, no one's looking to be sold to or pitched to. It's got to be a collaborative effort. It's a two-way street. And when people hear the word support, right now more than ever, people are seeking connection. They're seeking community. They're seeking uh, ways of how they can do other things with other people that are benefiting the lives that they touch through each other's networks and supporting one another. And again, I'll go back to something that I said early on when we started, was the principles of the science of getting rich by Wallace D. Wattles. And instead of living in a world of competition and comparison, live in a world of creation and collaboration. And we need to support each other. Entrepreneurs need to support other entrepreneurs, because the fact of the matter is we all have skills. We're not good at everything. We're all good at a few things. Where you are the expert in JV programs and how to create that kind of collaborative effort. People consider me a LinkedIn expert, which is where I build my business. And, so there's always a way for two like-minded people that do two different things to support and help each other with what they're doing. So let's kind of round this off. And because in entrepreneurship, it could be a very lonely journey. We both work from home, so sometimes the only people you're interacting with are the ones that are looking back at you on the Zoom that you're doing, and you're not out and about as much. And networking events are great, but there's a lot of entrepreneurs that get stuck in this rut where they're just so focused on themselves and their business that they're literally not focusing on one of the most important aspects of growing an entrepreneurial business, which is really collaborating and connecting with other people, not so much to pick up a client, but just to have a new connection, to have a new network, to have a circle of influence. So talk about, in entrepreneurship, how important it is and how impactful it could be for that entrepreneur to really seek JV programs or collaborative efforts or just connection with other entrepreneurs to support one another.
Yeah, it's actually paramount. For me, it was a learned skill. I've always been social, but I didn't like build out some crazy social network until I decided to. I chose to learn those skills. And a technique I love sharing with people, I was at an event and met up with a friend of mine, and we hit it off, and we were talking for hours. And he was like, if I ever come to mind, just ping me. And we tend to think, okay, A, I'm busy in my day. B, you're probably busy. I don't want to interrupt you. So yeah, maybe I could ping you. I'll do it tomorrow. And next thing you know, 6 months have gone by. You haven't maintained or built that relationship. And there's a saying by an author who's eluding me, but it's dig the well before you're thirsty. So I took that advice to heart on pinging people when they come to mind. And so now I do it without actually even thinking about it. I'll notice I'm halfway through a text while I'm brushing my teeth, like checking in with someone like, hey, how's it going? Or I'm walking the dog, and I'll shoot a little recording or a video saying, you just came to mind for, XYZ reason, and wanted to check in. How you doing? What are you working on? And so by reaching out to people systematically, you're kind of keeping your ear to the ground. You hear what's going on, opportunities for them you can send their way. If people know what you're up to and you're top of mind, they send opportunities your way. And you can do that with LinkedIn. You can do that with text. You can do it through Facebook. And it's really been one of the key elements to the success of my business. When I started in this space, I had zero connections, none. I didn't know anyone in this space. And now, like on Sunday, some of these names your audience may or may not know, but there's some of the biggest marketers on the planet. Just on Sunday, I was on a call with Jeff Walker, Eben Pagan, Marie Forleo, Marisa Murgatroyd, Yannick Silver, and the list goes on by about 60 people. And I was invited to that call because I've been building relationships with those folks and many others, and providing them a lot of value and sharing introductions. And it actually becomes pretty easy. It's just baked into your day versus feeling like, oh, I really should reach out to some people, but I'm busy. I've got this email to get out. I'll do it tomorrow. You can also make it a game. I've got a 5-day challenge we're about to launch, and it's called the Human Lead Magnet Challenge. And it basically just has you get in touch with people that are in your network you haven't really been interacting with for a while, maybe a previous client, or maybe someone you met at a conference and had some good conversations, and then it died off. You could do it on paper, you could do it with a spreadsheet or whatever, but just pick 2 people you want to reach out to today, or 5 people. And when you systematically do this, you'll find your opportunities, your sales, your joint venture partnerships, your stage or podcast opportunities will go through the roof. It's basically all I do all day. It's getting on calls with interesting people I've just been introduced to, and then exploring where that call could go. Maybe they're in need of my skill sets and they hire me. Maybe their audience is perfect. In fact, yesterday is an example. I was introduced to a woman here in the Bay Area. We jumped on a call. Usually these calls are half hour. This one went like an hour. And by the end, JV booked, referral partnerships created, and multiple intros heading both directions. So every call has a happy outcome, whether that's a joint venture booked, a sale, a podcast, a stage, an intro, and you just do that all day long. And I have the systems for tracking all of that and the best practices to do that in your business, and magical things happen.
It's the law of numbers, and people don't understand that every conversation is also a door of opportunity that's been opened. Just like you said, I'm on, I'm looking at my calendar. I'm on 7 podcasts just this week, and the power of that kind of connection, where I'm being introduced to new people through someone else's network, that already builds the know, like, and trust, because that host is bringing me on, introducing me to their audience. So there's already a trust factor that's already been built into that. But I think when entrepreneurs can start to understand that every conversation doesn't have to end up with a sale. You're not looking to pitch. You're looking for an opportunity. How can we do something here? Just like when you and I spoke before, it ended up with us doing this podcast because obviously there's synergy, and don't get attached to the outcome. Don't have any expectations when you get on these calls. Just seek to connect and ask questions and see where it goes, where both people are going to be mutually benefited. And sometimes that will land in someone hiring you, or you hiring them, or you doing a pod swap, or getting asked to do per prime example. A few months back, I did a call with someone on LinkedIn, and they just happened to be looking for a speaker that has my skill set in teaching human connection and resiliency and using LinkedIn. And she said, "Would you like one of our last speaker spots?" And I didn't even ask for that. I was just telling her what I do and how I do my work, and she made the offer. So there's always something there. Now, you have so many great systems in place. Before we obviously round out the call and hop off, because I just want to respect your time. I mean, this has been such a valuable podcast episode. Tell the audience a little bit about some of the systems that you've been putting into place, and how people can utilize them, and more so, where can they learn more about you and what you do, and how can they connect with you?
Sure. Thanks for asking. So, for one, I'd like to share with you guys a mind map that I created that has all the core elements and tools related to the joint venture process. And you can download that for free by going to mindmap.purejv.com. That's mindmap.purejv.com. And basically, I work with clients privately. I have group programs. In general, they kick off every month. They're live programs that run over 8 weeks. I have digital courses, and I also have live events. We'll see when the next one is booked, considering I had to move. It was actually, my next event was going to be next week. I have to push it out a little bit, but going strong online with consulting and the group programs. And you can get that mind map by going to mindmap.purejv.com.
Awesome. And just for the listeners, all that information will be in the show notes, so you guys know how to get all that. And Charles, before we sign off, last question. There's no wrong answer, because this is truly what it means to you. So in everything that you've experienced in life and in entrepreneurship, what does success truly mean to you?
Success to me means a balance of getting a lot of traction in what you do, so that you help people be more effective at meeting their goals, because that creates a positive momentum, and doing it with balance. So you yourself are living a higher quality of life while you do it. That's a core driving factor behind everything I do, is making people more effective at what they do, while I also live a very high quality life, versus getting results for others, burning out or not spending time with your family or going on adventures. So that is what success means to me. And I've been enjoying that since I started this journey, and it just continues to expand in profound ways.
Amazing. Just love that answer, and just love everything that you brought to this episode. So I just want to, thank you so much for being here today, and sharing your knowledge and your tips and your very tangible takeaways that people can apply. And I do highly encourage everyone listening today to go check out everything that Charles is doing. So Charles, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
Absolutely. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. As always, take a screenshot from where you're listening from. Put this out on social media, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. Tag us in it. Let us know what you thought, some tangible takeaways, aha moments. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next time. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you again so much for checking out this week's episode. And if you can, head over to iTunes, search for Network Marketing Made Simple, leave me a 5-star rating, basic review. I would be grateful for all of the support you guys can give me. And again, if you'd be interested in learning more how to utilize LinkedIn to grow your business, your brand, and your bank account, head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net. Fill out the form for your free 15-minute discovery call so I can learn more about you, your business, and how we can work together. And again, thank you guys so much. Grateful for you all, and I'll see you next time.